password is this. Okay, so I'm just logging into Jenkins. So I started with instance. I've copied this public IP followed by port number 8080. Okay, so I've logged into this Jenkins. Let it load first. Okay, so due to this slowness, you can copy the public IP from the instance and you go once you log in Jenkins now. So under there is a right side corner, there is a icon called manage Jenkins. You go under because your Jenkins is working very slow, right? So it's not even updating the web page, correct? To make it faster, you need to change the IP because the under system there is an IP. There you need to change that. Okay. So there is an icon called system. Are you guys following here?
Yes.
Yes. Under system, there is a system URL. Okay. You need to change with the latest IP because for every login, this IP will get changed, correct? And for every stop and restart of an instance, this IP will get changed, right? Now the current IP is 235.247, the last two digit, right? You go here and go to under system, go to the Jenkins URL. Okay, what is having Jenkins URL? Jenkins URL is pointing to old IP, public IP, correct? Followed by port number 8080, right? Now you copy the latest IP, okay, and replace this with the latest IP. Replace this and click save so that your Jenkins will be faster. Okay, until you replace the IP, your Jenkins will be work very slowly. So soon after updating your latest IP, so that traffic flow will happen via this IP only, so that the Jenkins will work faster. Okay, clear? Clear with this configuration?
Yes.
Clear for everybody?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now let's walk through this dashboard. Okay, so this is basically the Jenkins dashboard where we create, you can see here a new item. So where we click on this, here there are a lot of projects that we can create. We'll go this later. And there is a build history. So whatever the build that you generated from Jenkins, you can see the build history over here. And project relation, suppose if you have any upstream and downstream project, you can project, I mean, you can do compare with this in Jenkins itself. Okay, and check file fingerprint. So if there are any fingerprint that you want to keep it in fingerprint, in the sense it creates some ID. Okay, so here you can see the thumb impression, right? Thumb. For each and every commit, it will create a fingerprint. So Jenkins will generates the fingerprint for every changes. That's how. So we can also select choose file. Suppose if your repository is in locally, you can upload it and check the fingerprint. Okay, and it gives the fingerprint ID. Okay, that is the reason we use that. Okay, and again, so going forward we will work with, and this is your profile. If you click on this, you will see your profile builds and the uh, view that you want to keep, and also for uh, your account, okay, and your name, your credentials, your email, and your whatever the details that you have in your account, and an appearance that you can keep here. Suppose if you want to keep dark or light or dark system, whatever you want, you can keep the appearance for the Jenkins dashboard. This is for the Jenkins dashboard. So currently it is in light, let it be light. If you want, you can just you can do trial and error. Okay, and also for preferences, under preferences you will be having like uh, under preferences default view, so it is only default one only. Okay, and under security, so if there are any API tokens to be added to Jenkins, and also for password to be changed, you can change it here for the Jenkins password. Okay, and under experiments, so also add you can also add uh, so normally this will not use this experiments and all. So I'm not sure why we use this experiments. So okay, there are enabled a revamp build page. This feature is still a work in progress, so some things might not work perfectly yet. Okay, so this experiment will not used in our project, so only the admins will take care of it. Okay, and for credentials, so we do create a credentials. So currently it is in the global credential, so we'll use the credentials to create authenticate for the Git repository which we stored in GitLab or GitHub. Okay, I'll show how to use these credentials. Okay, now again I'll click on the Jenkins icon again. Now see, here is your Jenkins version 2.520 528.3 is your Jenkins version. Okay, clear with this? Clear for everybody?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now let's click on new item. Let's create the project. See, there are the multiple projects are from Jenkins, like freestyle project, pipeline, multi-configuration project, folder, multi-branch pipeline, and organization folder. Okay, so now we'll provide the job name project one. Okay, or project dev I'm gonna create. Okay, I'm going to select very first project which is freestyle. Okay, so these are all the types of project from Jenkins. Okay, so we'll understand what is this freestyle project, and this is the project name that we wanted to build from Jenkins. Okay, see, this is the configuration in Jenkins that I'm showing here. Okay, we'll click on OK. Project dev, and here there is a under configuration where we can see general, source code management, triggers, environment, build steps, and post build actions. I used to keep on say this post build actions. Okay, we'll walk through this. Okay, under description you can keep project as dev, and under here, see, there are, let me explain this one by one. Okay, so there are some enables or disables that you can use it in your project. Okay, suppose if you enable this, that feature will work from Jenkins. Okay, suppose if you discard old builds, if you enable this, if you enable this, you can do log rotation. Okay, log rotation, days to keep build. Suppose if you want to keep the build for 5 days, okay, or maximum of builds to keep for 3 days, the Jenkins will keep the build only for 3 days. Okay, other than 3 days it will disable automatically. Okay, that is the log rotation. Getting my point? So this discard old builds feature, if you enable this, you need to fill these two. Okay, and if you disable, it'll move to, suppose if you want to configure for GitHub project, provide the GitHub project here, and under advanced you just point the display name of the project. Okay, and the third feature will be this project is parameterized. Suppose, see, as I told, parameterized plugin, right? So I'll explain how to install the plugins. Before that, I'm just explaining the feature in Jenkins. Okay, suppose if you enable this, this project is parameterized. I click on this. Okay, suppose there are parameters are boolean parameters, choice parameters, credentials parameters, file parameter, multi-line string. There are types of parameters that you want to use it in Jenkins, right? Suppose if you provide a choice parameter here, so you can give the name and you can write the choices here. Choices in the sense, suppose, remember your for loop, correct? So for loop is for example, best example for choice parameters. Okay, suppose if in case if you enabled with choice parameter, also you can go with boolean parameter. So anything that you want. Okay, so suppose if you have multi environment that you are working, dev, and whenever we are selecting a parameter here, remember that in the plugins, where is our Jenkins plugins? Our Jenkins plugins are here. Okay, where is my parameterized plugin? Okay, it is used to pass the parameter to Jenkins job, correct? For example, for deployment job, we pass the server name and the build, so that the selected build will get deployed to the selected server. Okay, now if I go to the parameterized project here, if I select a server, let's say server 1. Okay, so this server 1, if I click save, okay, and if I click on build with parameter, okay, if I click on this, it will ask for the parameters. This build requires the parameters, right? If you select this, then only the build will triggered in this server only. Getting my point? This is how the parameterized plugin works in Jenkins. By default, some of the plugins were installed. Okay, now I'll go to again. If you can go back to the same configuration, you click here, project, go to the configure. Okay, go to the parameterized. This project is parameterized. If you disable this, you will not able to see the parameters when triggering a build. Okay, now throttle builds. This throttle builds approximately 60 minutes between the builds. If there are any delay in the build, okay, that will be in, say, max to max, the delay will be in between the builds only. Okay, so allow user triggered builds to skip the rate limit. Okay, so this is basically 60-minute between the builds. See, Jenkins will trigger build one after the other, like parameterized it, but there is a time delay in the sense it needs some break, right? So that is what it is. Throttle builds will explain. Okay, so whenever, whatever you want, you can use these features according to your project requirement. Okay, and also execute current builds if necessary. Okay, current build in the sense, suppose if you triggered build today, the current builds are having some requirement, you can execute the current builds if it required. Okay, you go here and quit the period or retry count. These are all the parameters from Jenkins. Okay, so block build when upstream project is building. Okay, suppose if there are any upstream and downstream projects are building, only you can block the upstream, and similarly you can block the downstream project. Okay, use custom workspace. So there are a lot of features. So if there are custom workspace that you need, instead of keeping the builds in some other path, you can use custom workspace. Okay, and you, for the custom workspace, you can point the display name and keep the build logs dependencies. Suppose if your build is having some dependency in the sense, your build, when you're generating from the build tool, it is dependent with some automation, it is dependent with some Python script, it is dependent with some shell script, and it is dependent with some Java scripting, or if it is dependent with some C or C++ source code, so that you can keep builds log dependencies. Okay, so if you disable this, You will not see this. Okay. And the second option will be source code management. So what is the source code management that we used? What is the
Make and Maven.
source code management? Who
GitHub.
told CMake and Maven?
Git. I only tools.
Source code management tools are CMake and Maven.
No, sir.
Then those are build tools, right?
Built. Yeah, yeah, correct, correct. I
See,
just
don't
confused it.
this guide
Yeah.
here. If you are not aware, then keep, please. Okay. So let me
Okay, sir.
explain. Source code management are the GitLab or source code where we keep the source code, GitLab or GitHub or Bitbucket, right? And CMake and Maven are the build tools, right? So under source code management, here we configure Git. Okay. And if you go to your source code management, here you can see source code management as this. If you click on this second tab, you will directly move to this source code management. If you click on none, you are unable to configure the Git. But if you select Git, you need to provide the Git repository and the credentials of the repository and the branch of the repository that you wanted to configure in Jenkins. And this is what the configuration that we do. Currently, we'll go with none because we will run the plain dry run build from Jenkins. Okay, so I will explain later how to configure Git in Jenkins. Okay, in the same session only. Okay, as of now I'll keep it as none for the source code management. Source code management, always we configure Git in Jenkins, remember, always. Okay. Now the third tab that I can see, triggers. So under triggers there are multiple options, right? So under triggers there are 5 options. Set up automated action that start your build based on the specific events like code changes or scheduled times. Okay. So under the triggers, the very first trigger builds remotely, for example scripts, correct? We can trigger the build remotely using scripts. If you enable this, you pass your authenticate token and pass. How do we use this trigger builds remotely? Suppose if you are running with only Jenkins URL with this project, we can use this, correct? Jenkins, instead of pointing it, what is our Jenkins URL? Jenkins URL is this only, right? So when we point this Jenkins URL, see, this IP will change always for every login, right? So we cannot pass this Jenkins, or we cannot pass this as a Jenkins URL. We need the static web page, right? We need the constant web page. So then only we can use this as remotely. Okay, remotely in the sense we can use this to trigger the jobs in remotely. Okay, clear? Now, the second option will be build after other projects are built. Suppose if you enable this, suppose if you want to projects to watch, you, let's say your project name will be dev. Suppose if you want to build the other project are built, you trigger only if build is stable, or trigger even if the build is unstable. Okay, trigger even if the build fails, and then always trigger even if the build is aborted. Okay, so either of one you can just enable it. Okay, so here suppose if you point the project name, project dev. Okay, for this particular project, or you can also point multiple project here, project 3, project 4. This for the all these project, whatever you enabled. Okay, let's keep only one. Just a minute. Sorry. So let's give the project name as project dev because ours is project dev only. Suppose if you want to trigger only if the build is stable or if the build is unstable. So if you enable this, again it will re-trigger if the build is unstable. Okay, and even trigger even if the build fails. Okay, suppose if even the build fails, it will re-trigger even if the build fails as well for this option. Okay, and suppose if always trigger even if the build is aborted. Okay, so you are aware of stable, unstable, fails and aborted. Aborted means the build, some network issue, whenever you will be having a network issue, you'll get, the build will get aborted. So we will see this all aborted, fails, unstable, unstable builds in the when triggering a build. See, before creating a job, I'm explaining each and every concept in Jenkins. Don't get confused here. ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗ್ತಿದ್ಯಾ? ಜೆಂಕಿನ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು, ಏನೇನು ಆಪ್ಷನ್ ಇದೆ ಅಂತೇಳಿ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೈನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ನಾನು ಇನ್ನೂ ಜಾಬ್ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ. ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ ವಿತ್ ದಿಸ್ ಎವ್ರಿಬಡಿ? Okay, so depends on, based on your project requirement, you can start using the Jenkins for your project requirement. Some project depends on the organization. So if you thoroughly understood this, then you can use any of the feature from Jenkins. Okay, now the second option will be build periodically, right? So here we can schedule the jobs. Here we can set, here we can set the cron tab. Okay, where we can set the cron tab under triggers, there is a button called build periodically. See, no schedules will never run, right? Means if there are no schedules, the build will not trigger. Okay, this is what we do in the build periodically, correct? Scheduler. So how do we set the cron tab? With every 2 minutes we go with star slash 2 and followed by every 2 minute, correct? For which script? We have a script in slash home slash ubuntu slash script.sh, correct? So this is what the cron tab will set in build periodically. This is how we do in Jenkins. Clear? Clear for everybody? Are you
Yes.
guys here or sleeping early morning? Okay. Now soon after this build periodically, we'll go with GitHub hook trigger for GitSCM polling. So if you enable this, automatically GitHub hook trigger will pull the webhook and it triggers the build. And similarly for poll SCM, so here we can also schedule, we use based on the post commit. Suppose if you use any specific commit, see, build periodically we use the cron tab. Okay, and in the polyscium we use with specific. Okay, here for h, okay, we need to follow the proper syntax here. For every hour there are some syntax we'll use. Going forward, we'll use those syntax to schedule the Jenkins job. So here it is saying some invalid input mismatch expected. Okay. Okay, let's work on this. Whenever we want to schedule, we'll work on this. Okay, but this is basically to schedule. This is used to schedule the particular job in Jenkins job to run it automatically. Okay, and in the policy, suppose if you want to run with a specific commit, we use this policy. Okay, specific commit in the sense we will copy the commit from GitLab and we will point it. We'll use the same commit to trigger the build for the specific commit. Okay, interviewer might ask the difference between build periodically and Polysium. So build periodically we schedule the jobs with a specific time, and Polysium will schedule the job with particular commit. Okay, based on the commit. This GitLab password. Okay, so I'm logging into the GitLab. So signing in with, okay, GitLab account. And suppose if you want to, if you click on commits under code, there is a commits called commit icon. If you click on this, suppose if you want to trigger for this particular commit, you copy and put it here. Okay, so this job will trigger for a particular commit. Okay, so normally we'll not use these kind of, very rare, but suppose if you want, if your project requirement is to trigger for particular commit, you can use policy. And build periodically is to schedule the jobs with particular time. Okay, so we will correct those. There are some syntax issue, but
Sir, can you remove that
the
path, script path?
run tab.
Hi, sir.
Yes,
Can you remove that home Ubuntu script.sh and check, sir?
yes. I think it needs only the cron tab. But the script, okay, script we can pass it in the build step environment. Okay, so directly we can point this only the syntax for cron tab. Okay, clear with these triggers? Clear for everybody? Let's remove this as of now. Let's disable this, and we'll go to the environment. Under environment, there are multiple options. Delete workspace before build starts. Okay, so the name itself is saying delete workspace before build start. Delete workspace in the sense, clean up the workspace before the build starts. So the build always should start with fresh build. Suppose if you're triggered with any builds previously, this will get removed through this delete workspace before start. Okay, if you enable this and use secret text or files. Suppose if you have any secret file or text, certificates or git username and password, SSH key, to build that, you can use this secret text feature and add timestamps to the console output. If you enable this, so we can see the timestamp uh, in the console output. Timestamp in the sense, so what time the build get triggered and what was the issue at what time. So we can, if you enable this, so we can see the timestamp. Okay, and inspect build log for published build scans. So it will inspect automatically. So if there are any, this is very basic sanity, the basic sanity test build. Okay, and terminate a build if it's stuck. Suppose if due to some network issue or due to some your Jenkins CPU is reached more, so it will terminate if there are any stuck in the Jenkins configuration. Okay, and with ant is a build tool. Before Maven there is a build tool called ant. And suppose when we have a source, nowadays we will not use ant, we go with Maven only. Olden days I used ant as a build tool, because so we used to build the ant as a build tool, and there I used ant. Now nobody knows ant here. Okay, under the builds, the next tab will be build steps. Under build steps, if you click on add build steps, there are execute windows batch command. So you might heard about, for windows we use batch command, batch script, batch, not bash. Okay, for Linux we use bash, for Windows we use batch. Okay, if you click on this, you want, if you have any batch command, you can just type it here. Okay, similarly, if you have, for under build step, execute shell. Okay, suppose if you want to run any Linux command, just will run ls-lrt, or you can run ls-a, any command, ls-lt or ls-lrt pipe wc-l. Okay, and let's run these command from Jenkins. So currently I'm keeping this in all the commands in the execute shell, and under the post build actions there is a post build action. Suppose if you want to trigger an email, okay, so trigger an email, you click on email notification. Okay, so click on email notification. You need to configure your recipients here. Suppose if I want to get an email at gmail.com. Okay, so send email for every unstable build, send email, separate email to individuals who broke the build, let enable both. Okay, and as of now I'm keeping all these four command under execute shells. Under build steps only we need to add these commands. Okay, so I have provided description and I've explained these under general, and under source code management I have explained this. Currently I'm kept it as none. Okay, and under triggers there are built periodically in Policium section that you can use whenever you want. And under environment I have currently kept at timestamps to console output. And under build step I have given four command. Okay, and under post build actions I have enabled the email and provided the email id to get triggered. Let's see. Okay, click on save. Okay, so project is saved now. Just in the left side you can see changes, workspace, build now, configure and delete project and rename. Just click on build now. So you will see the logs in the left bottom here. You will see the very first build is success. Okay, click on this. Okay, see, let me show you where to check the logs. Okay, if you go back, you will see once you click on build now, you will see the builds that you triggered from Jenkins. Click on this ash one, go on mute, Naveen MB. Okay, so if you click on this hash with the very first build, okay, it will redirect to that page. Here you can see the left side console output, right? Click on this and you will see the from console output from the Jenkins. Okay, do you see the output for each command? ls-lrt total 0, and ls-a there are no hidden files and folder, and ls-lrt there is no files. ls-lrt pipe with wc-1, the job is success. And here you can see started by user Sandeep and running a system, building in workspace slash var lib slash Jenkins workspace project dev. Correct. Now where do we see this output? Where do we see this configuration? Right now let's log into this, because this server only we installed in Jenkins, right? Let's log into this. Okay, go to downloads. I'll open git bash here. Show more options. Open git bash here. Okay, SSH. I'm just logging into the server. Ubuntu @ IP address. Okay, I'm logging into the server. So this server only we are using the Jenkins. Okay, how do we check the Jenkins status? Sudo system
serial status.
yes Jenkins, correct. So Jenkins is up and running. That is the reason you are able to see. That is the reason you will see this. All the jobs are configured, and where we see this output. Okay. Now here you can see whoever triggers, they can see the user, and running as system, building in workspace. This is the Jenkins workspace where the jobs get created, where the project get created. Let's go to this path in the server /var/lib/Jenkins workspace project tab. Let's go to this path in server. Control C, cd to /var sorry, slash var lib Jenkins and workspace, correct? After Jenkins workspace, after the workspace project dev. Okay, let's cd to this. If I do ls, are we seeing the project called dev? Are we
Yes.
seeing project called dev? Okay, let's do cd to project in capital project space project dev. Okay, if I go to this folder, if I do ls-a, it is empty. Why? Because the logs, there are no, I mean, the project is get created here now, correct? There are no output, because if you see, if you can see in Jenkins, if you run ls, there are no, there is no output, because this path is empty. This is what the Jenkins workspace, under this workspace only the project will get created. Okay, now what I will do, I will I will delete all the folders rmf star sudo. Okay, now all the projects are get deleted, correct? We go here, we refresh this. Okay, now let's create another project and let's run some other commands. Okay, now can we run the script through Jenkins now? Can we run our script through Jenkins now? Okay, let's see how do we run. Okay, I'm gonna create one more project here. Go to Jenkins. Here you can see the project as dev. I'm gonna create one more. Click on new item. You need to come from scratch. Click on new item. Okay, project, I'm gonna give it as shell. Project shell, I'll keep project shell. Select freestyle, click OK, and it will redirect to the configure page of job here. So discard all, select none. Okay, directly come to the build steps. Here you select execute shell. Okay, and I'm gonna give any working script. I'll go to shell script. I'm gonna copy. Let's use this. Okay, control C, and I'm gonna copy the, let's drag it down. Okay, and here the script I copied, the script is saying I have set the debug mode. Okay, it is better to use the debug mode. The file that I'm downloading it here is using wget command, and I'll be using $? To check the status of above command, and I'll be using echo statements to debug. Okay, I'm executing under execute shell. Remember, always if you want to run any Linux command, you will have to always go with execute shell. Okay, now I'll click just save on it, and I'll just click on build now. Okay, the another second will get created, but suppose if you create a new project, you will see always one only, because this is the new project. Okay, where do we see the logs? You click on here, go to console output, and check the logs of Jenkins. Are we seeing this file is getting downloaded, and whatever the script is executing in locally, here also executing in via Jenkins? Are we able to see this? And file is downloaded successfully, correct? Here we can see, right? And the debug mode, when we enable setfnx through script, that's why it is showing this debug mode, the debug pointer plus, wherever you see plus, the each line is executed and output for each line, correct? And where do we see this output in the server? We can see var lib Jenkins workspace, correct? Go to same path. So I'm in the same path, var lib Jenkins workspace. If I do ls, are we able to see project shell? We do cd project shell. I do ls. So I can see the file which is getting downloaded here, correct? This is what the expected result, right? So where, which file we are downloading? The file we're downloading is gpl 3.0 txt using wget command. So are we able to see this file?
Yes.
Correct. So here it will store whatever the storage or whatever the build that you trigger, it will store it in the server itself. Similar, the file that you downloaded, similarly the build will get stored in the server. Suppose if you want to keep it, push it to the some other build storage, we'll explore that in further session. Let's not be confusion here. So here only you can see the logs, okay, and the build always will be seen in the server. Similarly the file you get downloaded, correct? Now similar logs, whatever you see, whatever you see these logs, we can also see it in the server. Okay, let me show where do we see. Under workspace, under Jenkins, there is a folder called jobs. Let's go to cd jobs. Cd jobs, if I do ls, yes, cd2 project shell. Okay, if I do ls, okay, there is a folder called builds, cd builds. If I do ls, you go to cd1, there is a folder called 1. If I do ls, if I do cat log, so here we can see, are we able to see the same running as system and started by user Sandeep and running as system, and the log finished successfully? Are we able to see this the same log in server as well, where we install Jenkins? This is what we call it as master, and this is the path. Under var lib Jenkins jobs project shell builds, and under builds there is a build called 1. So here also we can see the build job 1, right? Here the build job is 1 only. This is what we call it as job. Suppose if you want to modify any script in this, you go to configure, and also you just modify the working script and failed. Okay, and click save. Always you should click on save. If you click on build now, another second job will get triggered here on top of this. Okay, click on build now. See, the second job will get created on top of this for the same project that you configured. Click on this latest one. Latest one will be second one, and click on console output. So the output is printed. Okay, how do we see this in server? So instead of 1, you move to the second job, right? You do one step back, do ls. So there is a second job is created, correct? Do cd2 to do ls cat log. Are we able to see these changes in job 2? This is what we made changes, right? Clear with this, everybody? We can run the Linux command, we can execute the shell script, we can run our Python script, we can run our JavaScript, whatever you have in the freestyle. We have not configured any Git as an SCM tool. Apart from Git only, we are running it. Clear? Suppose if you want to run any Linux command, use the same. Okay. There are 2 projects are getting created. Okay, let's create one more new item. Let's create only the project name as Linux. Okay, and select freestyle and click OK, and directly go to the build steps. Here you just run ls-lrt pipe tail-1 tail-1. Okay, I'll just click save, and I'll just click on build now. Okay, the build has been created. Click on this, and if you can see the output, so there are no file which is present in this, because it will create a new workspace for every project created, right? Under varlib Jenkins workspace, still this path will be default. On top of that, whatever the project name that we provide it here it will create, correct? So you might see this. Suppose if the project name is project dev, it might create after varlib Jenkins workspace. Sorry, not here. Varlib Jenkins workspace, till here the same path, right? Huh. Till here same. Varlib Jenkins. It will create a workspace. The Jenkins will automatically creates the workspace according to the project name that you provided, right? Clear with this? And for project shell as well. Clear for everybody? This is for without Git configuration.
Sandeep, one question.
Yes.
We did RM removing all the projects from the server, right? The project dev is still showing up again
Project dev, where it is showing.
in the Jenkins web page. So we removed it from the server. We removed all the projects, right?
Yes, we removed it.
It's
Okay,
still
here
showing.
you're saying
Yes.
yes. So see, when we remove this from server, we can see this from Jenkins. That's what it will keep the build from Jenkins UI itself. Because suppose if you want to retrigger it, build now, again it might create it. It will create in the server. So the second will get created. Now this project dev has been created in the server. But when we delete this in the server, it won't delete in UI, Jenkins UI. When you delete this in UI only, it will get deleted.
Okay, Sandeep. Thank you.
Yes. Any other questions? Because this will track. The Jenkins will keep the build. That's what I have shown. Na? So when creating a job, keep the build. Let's keep it as dev. Keep the build, old builds, right? I have shown one of the discard old builds, right? And also if you want to keep, you can keep the last 5 build, right? So that's how the Jenkins works on configuration. Yes. Any questions on this?
I have a question, Sandeep.
Yes.
Sandeep, when we can we create any folder or files in the local only, and we can trigger so that we can check the logs.
Create files and folder in locally. I did not get your question.
Like now, projects is there in our workspace, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we create any folders like mkdir and one folder name, and if we build a trigger, so we are running ls lrt, and also if we get that.
See, what I understood from your question, if we run mkdir followed by dev, if I create this in locally, will it be created in Jenkins? Will be able to trigger from Jenkins? That's what your question, right?
Yeah.
No, it's not possible.
Okay.
Whatever you do from Jenkins, that only displays in server.
Okay.
So it won't run in Jenkins when you click on build now. No.
Okay. Okay, sir. Okay.
But you can create mkdir and you can create files and folders from Jenkins so that it will get displayed in the server. But when you do it in server, it won't reflect in Jenkins.
Okay. In shell script, we can write and we can trigger it, right?
Yes, you can create shell script. You go here, you create the project, select freestyle and click OK. Go to the build step. Under build step, you select execute shell. You can add any command that you want. mkdir dev touch file1 and run ls-lrt. You can run it
Okay.
in the execute shell.
Okay. Only in Jenkins we can do. In locally we can't do, right?
Yes, only through Jenkins. That's what. See, this Jenkins will be handling with the server only. How this, when you modify this in server, how this Jenkins will trigger,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Any questions from anybody? Yes. And can we? Okay, I'll give an assignment today. Can we trigger all the scripts all the commands through Jenkins. And can we create multiple projects here? And I want this screenshot from everybody. Okay, this screenshot where you created the multiple project. Okay, we have practiced around some 20 scripts, correct? Guys, open the mouth and talk now. In shell script, we have around 20 scripts.
Yes, sir.
Can
Yes,
we
sir.
extend all those in Jenkins?
Yeah.
That's what I was asking you. Okay, so any questions and any doubts from anybody? Okay, so I'll give an assignment and I'll share this step to create a Jenkins job. Okay, follow this instruction and work on the assignment today. Okay. Okay. So tomorrow we'll discuss about the configuration of. We'll configure Git in Jenkins and let's build the code from. Let's clone the repository from GitLab and let's configure through Jenkins and let's work on the remaining concept from Git. Okay, sorry, Jenkins.